Lake Avenue. Going back to the water meters. Sarah, I commend you on the job you're doing. However, I asked the question a year ago, are we going to sue? Are we looking into suing? We said that we were looking into suing inline. Are we, or has that been dropped?
There's a settlement agreement, Andy, that existed at the time you asked that question that settled all claims as against inline. And what they're saying is they're saying that settlement agreement binds us to have to buy these meters from the same people who provide us a faulty hardware on the residential.
Are inline and council one company, or are they two companies? Do they have a symbiotic relationship?
They have a symbiotic relationship.
Okay.
And there's a third entity as well.
Okay, now, Sarah, you said something about 1 or 2 inch lines. If they want 2 inch, they have to pay for them? Or if they require it?
The borough gives you a 1 inch free. Anything above that, you got to pay for.
Right.
But, so if they have a 2 inch line, they have to pay for what's above. Okay. Who's going to install the meters? You said they're not going to?
We're going to install them.
Our borough workers?
Our borough workers.
I just want to point out, and it's not your fault. You were out here when this happened. But when we complained about the brass that we were losing, and it came back and Artie said, well, we don't have the ability, we don't have the knowledge to take apart the old meters and strip the brass out. And now we have the ability to take out the old ones and put in these new electronic ones. And it's right. I mean, and that was what came to us, that they didn't have the ability to strip, to sit and do the gentleman.
Right.
Okay. And when Bush was dropping bombs on Iraq and we needed brass, and the price of brass was through the roof. And appointing a borough auditor. Did we pay this guy? Did we ask him to do something and pay him for it, and he didn't do it? Is that true?
No. Bob Allison has been working on the rate study, okay? The problem is that with all this other stuff that we have had going on here in town, and, you know, John wants to put the heavy on my head, so I'll take it. There has been no formal rate study, something that he has in front of him to look at, but there is a rate study that has been worked on, and Patty and I met with Bob Allison. We were supposed to meet with him again back in the fall, but unfortunately with all the stuff that was going on, other avenues here on council, it just got shoved to the wayside. Mr. Allison knows that this is something that he has to take care of before the next couple of months, because it is an item that we need to have in front of us. Now, in going back over the records, there was supposed to be a rate study done prior to me even taking over utilities, and I don't know whether John saw that rate study or not, but there was a rate study that was done according to Mr. Allison, and I believe that was done in 2008, was it 2008?
2009, and what it was there's two rate studies. One was commissioned by Mr. McLean, whose law firm is now going to be Labor Council. One was commissioned by Mr. McLean to Mr. Allison to determine whether or not the temporary $20 per quarter could be removed. And he came back in a writing and said no. And of course that was kept secret for almost a year. And that was disclosed to us last year that, in fact, Mr. Allison had said that there was no way you were ever going to remove that $20 per quarter, which raised the question about, well, are we going to, because the problem is this, Andy, you get put $20 on top of the 60 that the minimum users are using, you're raising essentially the minimum charge to 80. Right now, and Mr. Vorbach and I have spoken, and one of the things that's troubling to me about the fact that Ms. King's not counting in Mr. Vorbach is that he has some pretty good ideas about how we should deal with the water utility. For instance, that's true, Patty.
Just finish, John, please.
Okay. The point is that now that we have these water meters that we can read on a daily basis, we could go to a per gallon charge, right? And people would have to pay as they go with respect to their use. So people who are minimum users are going to pay what they pay, and people who are plentiful users have the power in their ability to conserve and bring down their bill. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to put together a rate study. Mr. Allison, okay, who happens to be the the auditor for the Board of Education as well, has promised us and been paid for this additional rate study, and you've been hearing Sarah put it off, and she's putting it off again now for a couple more months. And the problem is that the water utility, the budget of the water utility is a mess. You were here where you saw that we don't have the surplus that we used to have because of the debacle with the water meters.
Excuse me, about the surplus. The surplus was rated by previous councils. The water utility surplus was rated. That's why there's no
surplus. You mean the 10,000 4 times? Or the...
In previous councils, God knows.
And the $20 pass-through?
That $20 pass-through charge is for capital improvements at Manasquan Reservoir.
That's not
See,
accurate.
but that's not what we were
That is
told,
very
though.
accurate.
That's not what we were told. That's not what it was. But we were told, here's what we were told. That we were taking from Peter to pay Paul,
Right.
keeping the tax rate down,
Right.
right? And we took money from the water budget.
Yes, exactly.
And we
Nobody
depleted
up
the
here.
water budget. None of you, no, absolutely none of you. We depleted the water budget, and now we have to put this $20 pass-through in for a short period of time,
It wasn't
possibly a year, if you remember.
No,
Yeah.
And then it's gonna end. But you know what's wrong with the $20? And maybe I'm talking to the wall here, but, and what John said, if I use 30,000 gallons, I should be charged for 30,000 gallons.
Right.
And instead, somebody uses 30,000 gallons and they get charged $20 extra. Somebody uses 4,000 gallons and they get charged $20 extra. It makes no sense, right? If you're gonna have a pass-through or a surcharge, it should have a relationship to your gallonage, shouldn't it? Or it really shouldn't be there. It should be right in the price of the water.
Well, the problem is, Andy, is that the $20 surcharge has now become a necessity. And unfortunately, to get rid of that $20 surcharge is just not going to happen. It can
Why?
be rolled.
Why can't we just fold it into the gallon price?
You can.
You can.
You can roll it over into the charge.
I mean, no, just not roll it over, fold it in. So
Put it
it's
in.
not 20 to you and 20 to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 19 to you and 21 to me.
Exactly.
Andy, this is what we could do. Let me just propose, rate study. Now, I'm not an accountant, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but let's say we know that last year we had $1 million worth of expenses in the water sewer utility, okay? And we sold and we used 1 million gallons. All we do is charge $1 a gallon. Or we could even make it, just because there are some fluctuations from year to year, and we should be cautious and prudent, we would say, all right, $1.10 a gallon or $1.20 a gallon. But then we charge everybody by the gallon. We have the ability to do that. You buy gas by the gallon, you buy milk by the gallon. We have the ability to charge by the gallon. Why this rate study is taking forever, I don't know.
All right, Andy, your original question was the rate study?
Or why can't we do that?
I just want to
I have a
clarify,
few
that
questions, Mayor.
the
I still have more.
$20 surcharge was for the infrastructure, of what the infrastructure was going to cost Monmouth County. And so therefore, it should have been a base increase. Because it should have been a base increase and not a surcharge, because that's the infrastructure, and it should go across everybody equally.
Okay.
It's the cost of having a water sewer system.
Okay. So you're separating it from the water gallon use.
And we did the rate study, we saw numbers, Sarah and I, we don't have the formal, which to share with everybody, but our water rates across the board are the cheapest. We have not raised water rates in
Over 20 years.
Okay.
So whereas other towns have not.